Have you ever wondered what really went on behind the walls of medieval monasteries? It's likely that in your mind, you picture monks and nuns living in complete abstinence and religious dedication, far from any worldly temptation. Silence, constant prayer, and renunciation of worldly pleasures were the images we typically associate with these enclaves of spirituality. However, when we look beyond the surface, we discover surprising stories that reveal a reality far different from what we might imagine. Contrary to the traditional idea of monks and nuns being removed from the world and human desires, many of them lived in places where the rules were secretly challenged, where human passions manifested in unexpected ways, and where the rules of austerity weren't always followed to the letter. Even though monasteries were meant to be places where spiritual life seemed to be the focus, the history behind the stone walls shows a more complex picture, often filled with hidden secrets, forbidden relationships, and behaviors that defied the official norms of the church. What many don't know is that in many convents and monasteries, rituals were practiced, conspiracies were woven, and adventures were lived that the official history tried to keep in the dark. And the most shocking part is that one of the last points in this video will completely surprise you. You can't miss it. So, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and get ready to uncover what really happened behind the walls of medieval monasteries. Welcome to World Marvels. 10 Rebellious Women. In the Middle Ages, the lives of women entering convents were marked by a set of restrictions imposed by the church. Vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience were mandatory, and the goal of many convents was to offer a refuge for women who, for various reasons, could not or did not want to live the life of a typical woman in medieval society. However, despite the strict ecclesiastical rules, not all women who lived in these convents submitted to the isolated and self-denying life that was imposed on them. In fact, many of them challenged the rules, engaging in practices and creating secret networks that escaped the vigilance of religious authorities. One of the most surprising aspects of women in medieval convents is the way in which, especially during festivities like Christmas, some nuns managed to escape the strict rules of chastity imposed by the church. In many convents, these women secretly organized meetings with high-ranking men, openly defying the vows of chastity and obedience. In some cases, false identities were even adopted to blend in with the local population and participate in these clandestine encounters. These transgressions, which were kept secret, represented a way for nuns to regain some autonomy and experience the freedom that had been denied them within the convent walls. What is most shocking is that in some convents, secret tunnels were discovered connecting the religious quarters with palaces or mansions of noble families, allowing nuns to escape the monastic routine and meet secretly with their lovers or companions. These tunnels not only served for physical escape but were also symbols of a silent rebellion against the restrictions imposed by the church. In many cases, these secrets never came to light, but oral stories passed down through generations have given us a different view of monastic life, one in which the women in the convents didn't always conform to the ideals of purity attributed to them. 9. The contrast in food. Medieval monasteries were designed to be places of austerity, with monks and nuns living lives of moderation and dedication to prayer and work. Therefore, food was expected to follow a pattern reflecting these principles. Bread, vegetables, and small portions of protein were the most common foods in the monasteries. However, despite the strict rules of monastic life, the reality in many monasteries was much more complex and, at times, much less austere than one might imagine. For example, when night fell and the doors of the monastery were closed, monks and nuns would gather secretly to enjoy banquets that completely contradicted the idea of austerity attributed to them. During these nightly gatherings, not only were more generous meals shared, but wine or beer was also served, adding an element of indulgence to monastic life. During holidays like Christmas, it was also common to set aside the restrictions and enjoy a more lavish meal, in which fish, seafood, and even meat, in some cases, were part of the feast. Although the diet of monks and nuns was generally simple and low-cost, during special occasions such as religious holidays or important events, exceptions were made to offer feasts where more luxurious dishes were served. In some monasteries, even where meat was prohibited, the authorities made exceptions in special situations, such as when a monk or nun was ill. This contrast between the austere daily life and the secret feasts at night shows that behind the religious facade, There was a humanity that enjoyed the pleasures of life, even if it meant challenging the rules. 8. Secrets in the libraries. One of the most interesting surprises within medieval monasteries was the existence of secret libraries containing books and manuscripts that were not permitted by the church. While monastic life was primarily focused on prayer, meditation, and copying religious texts, many monasteries secretly stored forbidden books that challenged the official doctrines of the church. These texts covered a wide range of topics, from astrology and alchemy to natural sciences and philosophy, and were read and discussed by monks and nuns who didn't conform to the official dogmas. The secret libraries were mostly accessible only to a select group of monks and nuns, who used these forbidden texts to expand their knowledge and challenge the traditional beliefs imposed by the church. In some cases, these libraries were known only to a few and were kept entirely secret. What is fascinating about these libraries is that many of them contained books that are even considered subversive or heretical today, proving that even in the most religious and strict places, there existed resistance to the absolute control of the church. In many convents and monasteries, especially at night when official religious activity had ended, monks and nuns would gather in secret to study these forbidden texts, debating ideas that were beyond the reach of the official teachings. These secret meetings to read and discuss books that contradicted the ecclesiastical view of the world were a form of defying the church's control over knowledge and education. In some cases, the monks and nuns who dared to read these texts risked being excommunicated or even condemned as heretics. But for them, the pursuit of knowledge and truth seemed more important than blind obedience to established norms. 7. Secret Christmas rituals. During the Christmas season, medieval monasteries didn't only dedicate themselves to religious celebrations, but also carried out secret rituals that escaped the supervision of ecclesiastical authorities. While Christmas holidays were mostly moments of prayer and religious reflection, they also provided an opportunity for some monks and nuns to challenge the strict rules of the church and engage in more unusual practices. In several convents, especially in Spain and France, secret rituals combined Christian elements with ancestral traditions. These rituals often involved singing and private celebrations that didn't conform to the church's official liturgy, creating an atmosphere of mystery and rebellion. In some monasteries, nuns organized ceremonies where they sang ancient hymns and used symbolic objects not found in traditional Christian rituals. Although these celebrations were presented as Christmas holidays, they had much older roots, some even pre-Christian. 6. Forbidden knowledge. In medieval monasteries, monks and nuns didn't just dedicate themselves to prayer and copying religious texts. They also guarded certain knowledge the church deemed dangerous. Over the centuries, many monasteries became places where books and writings on occult sciences, philosophy, astrology, and mystical practices were hidden from ecclesiastical control. These texts, considered heretical by the church, were often secretly transmitted among monks and nuns, especially during the night. The study of alchemy, astrology, and other forbidden sciences was a form of intellectual resistance within the monasteries. Some monks and nuns felt that religious texts didn't offer complete answers to the mysteries of the universe and human life. In some monasteries, secret spaces were designated for these discussions, where certain monks and nuns were known for their advanced knowledge in areas like natural medicine and cosmology. This forbidden knowledge was kept locked away in secret libraries or shared in clandestine meetings. While these studies were never officially recognized by the church, they played a crucial role in the development of thought and science in medieval times, well beyond religious doctrines. 5. The secret life of monks. Although the life of monks in the Middle Ages was portrayed as one of complete religious dedication and asceticism, the reality was much more complex. The daily routine in monasteries included long hours of prayer and work, but there were also moments when monastic life was marked by secrets, transgressions, and quiet rebellions. Despite their vow of obedience, monks were still human, and life in many monasteries wasn't only about religious discipline. During prayer and meditation hours, monks followed a strict structure, but after these activities, aspects of their lives became much more human. For example, in certain monasteries, especially during religious celebrations and holidays, monks would secretly gather to share not only food and drinks, but also discuss topics that were not part of the public domain. These secret gatherings were opportunities to break free from the rigidity of the rules and enjoy moments of leisure and brotherhood. which included not only wine but also activities that contradicted chastity and austerity. One of the most surprising aspects of monks' lives was that many of them not only defied the chastity rules but also engaged in romantic or even sexual relationships. These relationships, often kept completely secret, were considered a serious transgression of monastic vows. However, in many cases, religious authorities couldn't completely eliminate these behaviors, and the secret life of monks continued alongside their religious one, defying the church's official rules. 4. The internal conflicts of nuns. In convents, nuns also faced internal tensions related to their vows and the lives imposed on them. Despite the strict rules of chastity and obedience, not all nuns completely submitted to them. Many experienced desires and passions that they couldn't entirely suppress. As a result, nuns often resorted to secret methods to deal with these impulses. In some convents, nuns engaged in private rituals and hidden ceremonies to satisfy their spiritual and emotional needs. These rituals included not only prayers and meditations but also activities like exchanging symbolic objects, reading forbidden texts, and singing hymns outside of traditional liturgies. While these practices were considered heretical by the church, they offered nuns a form of silent resistance to the rigidity of convent life. At times, nuns organized secret meetings where they discussed philosophical and spiritual topics that challenged official teachings. These gatherings, which took place outside the hours of prayer and religious activities, offered a space for nuns to share their concerns and personal desires. While these activities were kept completely clandestine, at times, accounts of these meetings would emerge, feeding rumors about a much more complex and disobedient monastic life than was previously thought. 3. Secret Christmas rituals. During the Christmas season, medieval monasteries didn't just focus on religious celebrations. They also carried out secret rituals that escaped the supervision of ecclesiastical authorities. While Christmas holidays were mostly moments for prayer and religious reflection, they also provided an opportunity for some monks and nuns to challenge the strict rules of the church and engage in more unusual practices. In several convents, especially in Spain and France, secret rituals combined Christian elements with ancient traditions. These rituals often involved singing and private ceremonies that didn't align with the church's official liturgy, creating an atmosphere of mystery and rebellion. In some monasteries, nuns would organize ceremonies where they sang ancient hymns and used symbolic objects not found in traditional Christian rituals. Although these celebrations were presented as Christmas holidays, they had much older roots, some even pre-Christian. In addition, some convents had secret gatherings where nuns and monks would meet to discuss non-official matters, share ideas, and create bonds that transcended the religious life. These secret Christmas gatherings were a blend of spirituality, rebellion, and a desire to experience a more open and free form of existence, which, although hidden, reflected the strong desire for autonomy within the walls of these monasteries. 2. Monasteries as centers of power. While medieval monasteries were considered places of devotion and spirituality, some became actual centers of power. The authority of the church, along with the immense wealth of many monasteries, granted them significant influence both in politics and the economy. In fact, some monasteries were so powerful that, at times, they surpassed the influence of local nobility. In several regions of Europe, the abbots and abbesses of monasteries had considerable control over land and resources, allowing them to exercise substantial influence in the political and economic life of the area. Many monasteries not only dedicated themselves to prayer and work, but also managed large properties, organized commercial activities, and, in some cases, even maintained their own armies. The wealth accumulated by certain monasteries over the centuries granted them power that directly competed with local monarchies. In many cases, monasteries served as refuges for women escaping forced marriages or predestined lives, giving them a space to govern their own destinies. In fact, some abbesses held as much power as local lords, managing vast landholdings and negotiating directly with secular authorities. In the Middle Ages, monasteries weren't just places for prayer and study. They were strategic centers in medieval politics, where decisions were made that influenced the lives of thousands of people. 1. The mystery of forbidden encounters. Finally, one of the most shocking aspects of medieval monasteries was the existence of secret encounters between monks and nuns, which openly defied their vows of chastity and obedience. These encounters, which often took place under the cover of darkness, revealed a hidden facet of monastic life that contrasted sharply with the public image of purity and devotion. The stories of furtive meetings between monks and nuns in medieval monasteries have survived through the centuries. In some cases, these encounters occurred in secret locations within the monasteries themselves, where the stone walls kept the participants' secrets. Some monasteries even had hidden passageways connecting the cells of nuns and monks, facilitating these clandestine encounters. The tales of these secret meetings are full of mystery and emotion, revealing a completely different side of life in the convents. These forbidden encounters didn't just involve romantic and sexual relationships. They were also a form of resistance against ecclesiastical authority. Through these acts, monks and nuns defied the strict rules of the church, seeking freedom in an environment of oppression. Though these episodes were often kept in secrecy, stories of these furtive meetings continue to be a fascinating topic of medieval history, demonstrating that despite vows of chastity, monks and nuns were human beings with desires and emotions that could not be completely suppressed. From secret meetings between monks and nuns to forbidden knowledge shared in secret, monastic life was far more complex and human than the official history would have us believe. It's fascinating to see how monasteries, which we view today as places of strict discipline and religious devotion, were also spaces where human desires manifested in unexpected ways. And while ecclesiastical authorities tried to control every aspect of monastic life, these hidden behaviors remained an integral part of the history of these places. The secret rituals, acts of rebellion, and hidden knowledge demonstrate that despite all the rules and vows, the walls of the monasteries couldn't completely suppress the natural impulses of the people inside. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about the secret lives of medieval monasteries? Are you surprised by the transgressions that occurred in these supposedly sacred spaces? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this dive into history, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and make sure to subscribe to World Marvels for more fascinating insights into the hidden wonders of the past. And remember, we'll be back soon with even more thrilling stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, where we'll explore even more marvels of history.